The night the power went out, I was alone in my new rental home on the edge of Burlington, Vermont. It was late November, and the air outside felt sharp enough to cut skin. You know that strange silence winter brings? The kind where even the wind sounds like it's holding its breath. That's what wrapped around the house that night. I had moved in only 3 days earlier, and the landlord had warned me the place was a little old and a bit noisy in the cold. But I figured he meant the usual pipes. Wood, maybe a draft whistle here and there. Nothing unusual. Every house does that in winter. Around 11:30 p.m. I was sitting in the living room with a blanket over my shoulders, watching the storm outside. Snow kept tapping the window in soft, uneven bursts, almost like someone lightly flicking their fingers against the glass. The heater hummed in the background, struggling to keep up with the dropping temperature. Then everything died. The heater, the light stopped, the street lamps outside, all gone in a split second. I waited for that usual electrical clicking sound houses make right after a power cut. But nothing came. The silence folded in on itself, thick and unnatural, like the house was suddenly listening. I grabbed my phone to use as a flashlight and stood up, planning to find a candle. That's when I heard it, faint but unmistakable. A tapping sound. Not from the window, from inside the wall behind me. At first, it was soft, almost hesitant. Tap, 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 tap. I froze. The sound stopped too, as if whatever was inside the wall knew I was listening. You ever feel the air in a room shift? Like the atmosphere gets heavier, denser? That's what happened next. I slowly stepped toward the hallway, holding the phone in front of me. The house creaked under my feet, the kind of deep wood-bending groan that old floors make when they're expanding or settling. Only this felt timed. Like each creak followed my steps by a second. As I reached the end of the hallway, the tapping started again, but on the opposite wall now. Faster. More. Deliberate. Tap dash. Tap dash tap dash. Tap. Something was moving. Inside the walls. I swallowed hard, trying to convince myself it was just an animal. A squirrel, maybe. A raccoon. Anything normal. But the pattern was too controlled, too human-like. The rhythm matched footsteps. Light ones. Quick ones. I whispered into the dark. Hello? Something answered. Not in words, not even in a sound. The wall shifted, like something pressed its weight against the drywall from the inside. A slow bulge formed, small at first, then growing, pushing outward just enough for the surface to bend slightly. My breath caught in my throat. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping my phone. Then the bulge retreated, and silence swallowed the hallway again. I didn't move for almost a full minute. I just stood there, frozen in place, listening to the storm outside and the terrifying quiet inside. Finally, gathering what little courage I had left, I walked toward the basement door. The landlord had mentioned the circuit breaker was down there. Maybe the power outage had triggered something weird. Maybe the whole wall incident was my imagination. I kept telling myself that as I took each step. The basement stairs creaked loudly under my weight. The air grew colder and colder the farther down I went, like the warmth from upstairs never reached this part of the house. When I reached the bottom, I noticed something strange immediately. The breaker box wasn't tripped. In fact, the switches were perfectly aligned, untouched. And then behind me, something slid across the concrete floor. Slow. Dragging, I whipped around, shining my phone's light in every direction. The beam landed on the far corner of the basement, where the drywall panel looked newer than the rest. Too new. Too clean, like it had been replaced recently. A soft whisper came from behind it. Not. Words. Breathing. Then a single tap, right at chest level. I didn't wait. I bolted up the stairs so fast I nearly slipped twice. I grabbed my keys, jumped into my car, and drove to the nearest hotel without looking back at the house once. The next morning, I met the landlord and demanded he open the basement wall. He refused at first, but after I threatened to call the police, he finally agreed. What we found still gives me chills when I think about it. Inside the wall was a narrow, human-sized crawl space, and scattered across the floor were old clothes, empty food wrappers, and a dirty blanket. Someone had been living inside the walls. For how long? No one knows, but the landlord ended my lease the same day and boarded up the crawl space. And me? I never spent another night in that house. I had been living alone in Maple Ridge, Oregon, for barely 3 weeks when the strange things started. The house wasn't old, built in 2018. Modern, clean, the type of place that feels too fresh to be haunted. I took it because the rent was cheap and it was close to my new job at a local furniture store. I liked the quiet. At least at first. The first night it rained. The roof made strange hollow knocks, like someone was walking on it barefoot. I told myself it was just branches or the storm playing tricks. But around 2 a.m., I heard something else whispering. Not loud, just faint enough to confuse my brain into wondering if I was dreaming. The next morning, I checked the entire house. Kitchen, attic hatch, backyard, nothing. I shrugged it off. But the following night, it happened again, this time more clear. A whisper from the hallway outside my bedroom. Like someone saying, "Come here. Come here." I froze under the blanket, barely breathing, too terrified to move. When I finally turned on my bedside lamp, everything went silent instantly. As if it knew. By the fourth night, I started keeping lights on. The whispering had turned into soft footsteps, slow, dragging, like someone limping through the hall. I would get up, open the door, and find nothing. Not even the air felt disturbed. No footprints on the carpet. One evening, I came home from work and found all my cabinet doors open. Every single one. I checked the locks, still engaged from the inside. No break-ins, no signs of forced entry. I even checked the security system history. No alerts. I started staying out late. Anything to avoid being alone in that silent house where something waited for darkness. One night, when I finally walked inside around midnight, I saw it. Muddy footprints leading from the back door straight to my bedroom. Human footprints. Bare, wet, fresh, but the floor was bone dry. I followed them slowly, heart pounding. They ended right at my bedroom door. But my door was closed, completely untouched. I took one breath, pushed it open, nothing. The footprints vanished the moment I stepped in. Just gone. I slept in my car that night. The last night I ever spent in that house. A storm rolled in, heavy rain slamming the siding, thunder shaking the walls. I tried to sleep with headphones on, but at around 3 a.m., my bedroom lights turned on by themselves. I ripped the headphones off, and the room felt wrong, thick, like the air had weight. Then I saw movement behind the closet door, the outline of bare feet, visible in the tiny gap under it. They were facing me. I couldn't scream, couldn't blink. The door began to open slow creaking loudly, and I could see fingers around the edge, pulling it wider. Pale, long fingers. Not human normal. Too thin. Too quiet. I bolted out of the house barefoot, ran through the rain, jumped into my car, and drove without looking back once. I didn't even go back for my things. I filed a police report the next day, but they found nothing. No prints, no forced entry. No evidence of anyone living in or entering the house. But I know what I saw, and whatever it was, it wasn't something that belonged on this side of the closet door. I was driving alone across Nevada, trying to reach Reno before sunrise. When I stopped at exit 219, it was one of those middle-of-nowhere rest stops, just bathrooms, a vending machine, and a few flickering lights. The cold wind blew sand across the asphalt, making everything whistle quietly. I was exhausted, so I leaned my seat back and closed my eyes for a few minutes. When I opened them, someone was standing in front of my car, a woman, tall, motionless, staring directly at me. I couldn't see her face, her hair was covering it completely. I sat up quickly, heart racing, reaching for the keys. Before I could even touch them, she stepped backward, disappearing behind the restroom building. At first, I tried to convince myself she was just another traveler. Maybe she needed help. Maybe she was lost. So I stepped out of the car and called out, "Mom, are you all right?" No answer. I walked slowly toward the restroom building. The wind howled louder, whipping through the empty lot. When I rounded the corner, she wasn't there. But the restroom door was half open. Creaking in the wind, I pushed it gently. The lights inside were off, but I heard breathing. Heavy, wet, shaky, like someone crying without sound. I whispered, "Ma'am?" and reached for my phone flashlight. When the beam hit the mirror, I froze. There were handprints on it. Hundreds of them. Small ones, large ones, smeared like people dragging their palms down the glass. And written in the condensation were two words, "Don't look." Before I could react, something scraped across the ceiling above me, fast, sharp, like bone against metal. I ran outside instantly, stumbling into the cold air. That's when I saw her again, standing behind my car. This time her face was visible, and her eyes weren't eyes. They were hollow, wet, black pits leaking something dark down her cheeks. She lifted her hand slowly, pointing behind me. I didn't turn around. I just jumped into my car, locked the doors, and sped off as fast as I could. When I glanced in the rearview mirror, she was still pointing. But now she was closer, right at the edge of the highway, watching me. Didn't stop the car again until I reached a town with streetlights and people. When I told the gas station clerk what happened, he nodded slowly and said, "You stopped at 219? Son, that place ain't been safe since 2014. Too many folks see things there. I never drive that route at night anymore. And sometimes, when it rains, I swear I still hear something scraping metal far behind me, like something that followed the car, but never quite caught up." I rented a basement apartment on Willow Street in Anchorage, Alaska, because it was cheap and warm enough to survive the winter. The upstairs was owned by an older man named Dennis, who hardly spoke. Just a nod when I moved in. The basement had its own entrance, a tiny kitchen, and low ceilings. But it was quiet until it WASN single quotes G. The first weird thing happened my second night. Around 1 a.m., as I was drifting off, I heard a soft tapping from the far wall, 3 taps, all evenly spaced. I assumed it was pipes expanding in the cold. But then it happened again, and again, and again. Always in threes. I knocked back once out of irritation. The tapping stopped instantly. 2 instantly. the next morning. I asked Dennis if the walls had issues or if the building made noises because of the cold. He just stared at me, then said very quietly, "You hear things down there?" "Just tapping, maybe pipes," I replied. He shook his head slowly. "Pipes don't tap back." I laughed it off because his tone made me uncomfortable. Maybe he was just socially awkward. Maybe he was trying to scare the new renter. Anchorage folks got weird humor sometimes. That night, the tapping returned, but not as taps, as knocking. Slow, heavy knocking. It came from the same far wall right behind my bed. I sat up quickly and held my breath, listening. Knock, knock, 3 knocks. I grabbed a flashlight and pressed my ear to the wall. The drywall felt cold, colder than the rest of the apartment. Then I heard something else behind it. Not knocking. Not movement. Breathing. Slow, heavy, controlled, like someone aware I was listening. I stepped back immediately. The next day I planned to ask Dennis more directly, but he was gone. His truck wasn't in the driveway. His lights were off. The house was silent. Maybe he went to visit family, I thought. The snowstorm rolling in made everything feel isolated, like the world had shrunk to just me in the basement. That night, the knocking changed positions. It started on the wall near the bathroom, then near the kitchen, then near the stairs. Like something moving through the walls, following me, tracking where I walked. I turned on every light I had, sat on the couch, and tried to pretend none of it was happening. But at 2:17 a.m., every light suddenly shut off. The apartment dropped into total freezing darkness. Then came the whisper, right behind me. "I found you." I launched off the couch and ran for the stairs, but the basement door at the top wouldn't open. I shoved it, ramming my shoulder into it, but it didn't budge. Something was holding it shut from the other side. Or someone. Then, the whisper came from the bottom of the stairs. "Don't leave me." I turned around slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand. The beam landed on something at the bottom step, a handprint smeared across the floor. Long fingers, wet, fresh. I stumbled backward, nearly slipping, and ran into my bedroom, slamming the door behind me. I pushed my dresser in front of it. The knocking started on the other side immediately. 3 knocks, slow and deliberate. "Let me in." My flashlight flickered. The room temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. I pressed myself against the far wall, listening to the dresser scrape forward inch by inch as something pushed from the outside. I dialed 911 with shaking hands, but the call didn't ring. Instead, someone answered immediately, a whispering voice. "Why are you calling them?" I dropped the phone. My heart hammered so hard I felt dizzy. Suddenly, all the knocking stopped. Total silence. The kind of silence that makes your stomach twist because you know it's not over, it's waiting. From beneath my bed, fingers curled around the edge of the mattress. Slowly. Quietly. Purposely. I ran out of the room, tripping over myself, nearly falling as I reached the stairs. The basement door flew open this time, like someone yanked it from above. I burst into the snowstorm barefoot, sprinting into the night without stopping. Not even once. The police searched the basement the next morning. Behind the wall where the knocking started, they found a sealed crawl space. Inside it were scratch marks, tufts of hair. And an old sleeping bag. They estimated someone had been living in that wall for months, maybe years. Dennis never returned. His truck was found abandoned 40 miles away, and I still don't know which one of them, him or whatever was behind that wall, whispered to me in the dark. My name is Jacob Reeves. And last winter, I took a 3-day break from work and drove out to a rented lakeside cabin in northern Vermont. Just a cheap wooden place surrounded by leafless birch trees, frozen ground, and a small lake coated in thin, cracking ice. I wanted silence. I wanted to reset my head. I never expected the kind of silence that makes you question if you're alone. My first night was peaceful. I made pasta, sat near the old fireplace, scrolled my phone, and listened to the wind sweeping over the lake. The place was dusty, but cozy. A single bed, one lamp, and big windows that reflected my silhouette against the night outside. Around 2 a.m., I heard snow crunch outside. Not wind footsteps. Slow ones. I froze, listening. Crunch. 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 They stopped right under the window behind me. I turned the lamp off instantly. Outside, the night was pitch black except for a dim orange yard light flickering near the road. It barely reached the porch. I leaned forward slowly and peeked through the curtain. Nothing. No footprints. No shadows. Just the pale frozen lake. I told myself maybe it was an animal and went to bed. But the feeling stayed with me, the feeling of someone standing, just out of sight. The second night is when I realized something was wrong. I had just finished eating when I heard knocking on the back door. 3 soft knocks, almost polite. I grabbed a kitchen knife and stepped toward the door. Hello? I called. No response. I flipped the outdoor light on. It buzzed weakly, then died. I backed away slowly. My phone lost signal, and in the silence that followed, I heard something move on the roof. A long, dragging sound, like someone crawling overhead. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, lights off, staring at the ceiling, listening to that occasional scraping above me. Around 4 a.m., it finally stopped. The third night was the worst. I had already packed my bag. My plan was simple. Leave before sunrise. But around midnight, a storm rolled in. Freezing rain, high winds, and every alert told me roads were shut down. I was stuck. I sat on the bed with my coat on, clutching my car keys, listening to the storm rip through the trees. Water hammered the windows so hard I thought they'd crack. The lights flickered nonstop. At 1:12 a.m., the cabin went dark. Then I heard it again, those same slow footsteps in the snow. But this time, more than one crunch. Crunch, crunch. They circled the cabin. My breath fogged in front of me. I stayed completely still, listening as whatever was out there dragged something heavy along the wooden porch. I could hear its weight shift. Boards bending. A wet, raspy breath right outside the bedroom window. Then someone whispered my name. Jacob. My entire body locked. No one knew I was here. No one. I crawled to the window on my stomach and slowly lifted a sliver of the curtain. What I saw shouldn't have been possible. There were handprints smeared across. The snow human looking, but too long. Too wide, the fingers almost doubled. They led from the lake toward the cabin in uneven, dragging lines, like something crawling partially upright. But the prints didn't lead back. Whatever came from the lake was still here. Lightning flashed, lighting up the yard for half a second. In that split second of white light, I saw something tall, thin, and soaking wet standing between the trees. Its arms hung too low, almost touching the ground. Its head was tilted, like it was studying me. Then darkness swallowed everything again. I backed away from the window, shaking violently. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. The whisper came again, closer this time. Jacob. Let me in. I sprinted to the front door and shoved my suitcase against it. The doorknob twitched. Slowly, like someone was testing it from the other side. I stumbled into the bathroom, slammed the door, locked it, and crouched behind the shower curtain. The cabin walls shook from the wind, but under the storm, I could still hear something moving inside the house. Floorboards creaking. Slow, deliberate. It was in the living room, then the hallway. Then right outside the bathroom door, water dripped onto the floor. I could hear it pattering just inches away. Something wet pressed against the crack beneath the door. I could see the shadow shifting. Then, in a low, rattling breath, it whispered, "I came from the lake. For you." The doorknob began to slowly turn. I didn't wait. I kicked the tiny bathroom window open, squeezed my body through the frame, and dropped into the snow outside. The cold nearly knocked me out, but fear kept me moving. I ran barefoot through the storm, slipping, falling, getting back up again. I didn't stop until I reached the main road nearly a mile away. A passing plow eventually picked me up around 4 m. When police checked the cabin later, nothing was broken. No footprints. No damage. No sign of forced entry. Only one thing was off. Inside the bathroom, written in dripping lake water on the mirror, was a message. "Next winter." My name is David Chun. I'm 27 years old, and I just bought my first house. A small cottage in rural Pennsylvania. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, built in 1952. The realtor said it had character. The price was suspiciously low. I should have noticed those red flags, but I was too excited about finally owning property. I moved in on January 15th, 2025, in the middle of a brutal cold snap. Temperatures dropping to -10 degrees by evening. I had the heat on full blast, but the old furnace barely kept up. The house creaked constantly. Pipes groaned. Floorboards settled with violent cracks that echoed through empty rooms. By 9 p.m., I was unpacking boxes in the bedroom. My furniture wouldn't arrive until the next day, so I planned to sleep on an air mattress. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from the hallway outside my room. I froze. Listened. The footsteps stopped directly outside my door. I grabbed my phone. Called 911. The dispatcher said they'd send someone, but the nearest officer was 20 minutes away. In this weather, probably longer, the footsteps moved again. Down the hallway. Toward the stairs. I heard them descend, 1 step at a time. Measured, like whoever it was knew exactly where they were going. I locked my bedroom door. Realized that was pointless. Any door lock in a house this old would be useless. I grabbed a lamp, pulled the cord from the wall, held it like a weapon. The footsteps stopped downstairs. I heard water running. The kitchen sink. Someone was down there, using my kitchen, in my house. In the middle of the night. Then everything went silent. I waited. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, nothing. I called 911 again. They said officers were en route. Take precautions. Stay in a locked room. Don't confront the intruder. At 9:47 p.m., I heard the front door open. Cold air rushed up through the heating vents. The door slammed shut. The footsteps were gone. Police arrived at 10:15. They searched the entire house, found nothing. No signs of entry. No one hiding anywhere. The front door was locked. Had been locked the whole time. The lock hadn't been forced. The officer thought I was stressed from moving. New house jitters. Sounds old houses make. Nothing sinister. But I'd heard those footsteps. I'd heard the water running. I knew what I experienced. I didn't sleep that night. Sat on my air mattress with every light on, phone in hand, waiting for sunrise. But around 3 a.m. I heard it again. The footsteps, coming up the stairs, slower this time, heavier, like whoever it was had decided to move deliberately. Confidently. The footsteps stopped outside my door, right there in the hallway. For a full minute, then I heard it. A voice whispered through the door. "You're in my room. You're sleeping in my bed. You need to leave." My heart nearly stopped. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I told you, this is my room. I sleep here. Every night. I've slept here for 60 years. You need to get out of my house. There's no one there. You're not real. This isn't happening." The door handle turned, slowly, even though I'd locked it. The lock disengaged with a click. The door swung open. No one stood in the doorway. Just darkness, but the cold. The cold that poured into the room was absolute. Bone deep. The kind of cold that makes you forget what warmth feels like. I grabbed my jacket, ran, straight down the stairs, out of the house. Got in my car and drove. Away from that cottage as fast as the icy roads would allow. I drove to a motel in town, paid cash for a room. Sat in the warm, normal room for the rest of the night, trying to process what happened. The next morning, in daylight, everything seemed manageable, rational. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was the house settling. Maybe exhaustion had made me imagine things. I went back. The house was silent, peaceful. Nothing seemed wrong. My furniture had arrived. I unpacked, made dinner. Tried to convince myself I'd imagined everything. By 9 p.m., as darkness fell, the dread returned. As the temperature outside dropped, as the heating system kicked on with its unsettling groans. At 10:30 p.m., the footsteps came again, and I understood something horrible. This wasn't an intruder. This wasn't a burglar. This was something else. Something that lived here. Something that didn't want to leave. Something that had decided I wasn't welcome. I'm writing this from the motel. I haven't been back to the house in 3 days. The realtor is furious. Wants to know why I'm backing out of the sale. I can't tell her the truth. She'd think I was insane, but I know what I experienced, and I know that house is waiting. The entity inside is waiting. Every night at 10:30 p.m., it comes looking for whoever it considers the intruder. If I go back, if I try to force this, I think it will stop being polite. I think it will stop whispering. I think it will make me understand in the most permanent way possible that house will never be mine, that I can never own it, that I can only escape it. And I'm starting to wonder if I did escape, or if I'm still there, if some part of me is still trapped in that bedroom, still hearing those footsteps, still listening to that voice. Every single night at 10:30 p.m., every single night. My name is Michelle Parker. I'm 29 years old. And what I'm about to tell you happened on January 18th, 2025. I was driving from Boston to Buffalo. Just a normal drive. 6.5 hours. Nothing special. I'd made this drive 100 times before, but this time something went very, very wrong. I left Boston at 8 a.m. The weather forecast said snow was possible, but nothing major. The roads were clear. The sun was out. Everything seemed fine. I had my coffee, my playlist, and a full tank of gas. By 2 p.m., I-90 looked like a war zone. The snow came out of nowhere. 1 minute, clear skies. The next, white, complete whiteout. I could barely see 20 feet ahead. Cars were pulling over. Hazard lights flashing. The highway was becoming dangerous. I decided to exit at a rest stop. Get inside. Wait out the storm. It was only supposed to last a couple hours anyway. The rest stop was, well, it was old. Really old. Built sometime in the 1970s maybe. Weathered, run down, but it had a roof. Had heat, that's all that mattered. I parked my car and went inside. The place was nearly empty. Just me, a guy at the counter buying coffee, and one other woman sitting in a booth reading a magazine. The guy left almost immediately. Just me and the woman now. I bought a sandwich and a soda. Found a seat near the window where I could watch my car. And waited. By 4 p.m., the snow was worse. The parking lot was disappearing under accumulation. I checked my phone. Weather alert, winter storm warning. Major accumulation expected. 18 to 24 inches possible. Roads closing. I called my friend Sarah in Buffalo. Told her I might be delayed. How long? She asked. I don't know. Could be a few hours. Could be overnight if it's really bad. Just be safe. Don't drive in this. I won't. I'm at a rest stop. I'll wait it out. The rest stop had about 12 customers now. Stranded travelers like me. All looking anxious. All checking their phones. All hoping the storm would pass quickly. But it didn't pass quickly. By 6 p.m., the snow was relentless. The visibility was basically zero. The manager announced they were closing the gas station pumps for safety. We were stuck here until the storm cleared. I tried to sleep. Put my head against the wall. Closed my eyes. I must have dozed off because when I opened my eyes again, it was 9 p.m. And something was different. The rest stop was quiet. Too quiet. I looked around. Where were all the people? The customers who'd been here an hour ago? The staff. I got up and walked to the counter. Hello? Anyone here? Nothing. The place seemed abandoned. I checked the bathrooms. Empty. I walked to the back where the stockroom was. Nothing. It was like everyone had just vanished. Okay. This was weird but rational. Maybe they'd gone outside to check something. Maybe they were in a back room I couldn't access. Maybe the manager had locked up the front area for some reason. I went back to my booth. Sat down. Tried not to feel anxious. That's when I noticed the woman. The one who'd been reading a magazine when I arrived. She was still in her booth. Hadn't moved. Same position. Same magazine, but something was off about her now. In the fluorescent light, I could see that her skin had a peculiar quality. Like wax, and she wasn't blinking. Just staring at her magazine. Perfectly still. Excuse me? I said, "Are you okay?" She turned her head slowly. And when she looked at me, I felt ice in my stomach. Her eyes were completely black. Not dark brown. Not even black pupils, just pure black. Like looking into empty space. "The storm isn't natural," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "It's keeping us here. It wants us here." What are you talking about?" "This rest stop. It feeds. Every few years. During major storms. It traps people. And it keeps them until it's full. Until it's satisfied. That's insane. Look outside," she said. "Really look. Don't just glance. Look carefully." Against every instinct, I did. I looked out the window at the snow. at the parking lot, at the white chaos of the blizzard, and I saw them, shapes, inside the snow, moving, pressing against the windows. Dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. Figures, human-shaped but wrong. Distorted. Pressing ... pressing ... like they wanted in. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What are those?" "People," she said. "People like you. People like me. People who stopped at this rest, stopped during storms. People who never left. People who are trapped in the storm outside. Still trying to get inside. Still trying to rest. No, this isn't real. This isn't happening. It is. And soon, the rest stop will open its doors. The storm will push you outside, into the snow, into the cold, and you'll become part of it. Part of the blizzard. Part of the hunger that feeds it. I ran toward the front doors. I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe escape. Maybe find the others. Maybe understand what was happening. The doors were locked. I pulled. Nothing. I pounded. No response. Behind me, I heard her voice again. That flat, emotionless voice. "The doors are always locked when the feeding begins. You can't leave. No one can leave. Not until it's done." The temperature in the rest stop dropped. Rapidly, my breath became visible. Frost formed on the windows. And the figures outside. They were pressing harder. Pushing. The glass was cracking. I ran to the back. Found a fire exit. Pushed the emergency bar. The door opened. Cold air rushed in like a weapon. I stumbled outside into the snow. The wind was insane. Visibility 0. I couldn't see anything. Couldn't feel anything but cold. Numbing, absolute cold. And they were there. The figures. All around me. I could feel them. Cold hands grabbing at my clothes. Whispers, crying, screaming. All the sounds of hundreds of people in agony. I ran. I don't know which direction. I just ran. My car was somewhere in this parking lot, but I couldn't find it. Everything was white. Everything was cold. Everything was wrong. And then, miraculously, I stumbled into a car. Not mine. I tried the door. Unlocked. I climbed in. Locked all the doors. And waited. The figures surrounded the car. Pressing against the windows. Their faces becoming visible. Pale. Frost-covered. Eyes hollow. Mouths open. Screaming silently. I sat there for what felt like hours. Maybe it was minutes. Time felt broken. Distorted. Then ... The snow stopped. Just stopped. Like someone had turned off a switch. The sun came out. The figures vanished like they'd never existed. I got out of the car, which turned out to be an ancient 1987 Chevy, and looked around. The parking lot was covered in snow, but it was normal snow. The rest stop was ahead, quiet, peaceful. I found my car. It started. I drove away. Didn't look back. I got to Buffalo 3 hours later. Sarah asked why I looked so traumatized. I told her I'd just had a stressful drive. I didn't tell her the truth. How could I? She'd think I was insane, but I checked the news the next day, looking for reports of a rest stop. Abandoned buildings. Mass disappearances. Anything that would validate what I experienced. I found nothing. No reports. No stories. No incidents. It's like it didn't exist. Like that rest stop isn't real. like the whole thing was a hallucination. But sometimes, on snowy nights, I get the urge to drive back, to check if the rest stop is still there, to see if I can find it again. And I know, if I did find it, if there was another storm, I'd stop, because part of me wants to go back inside. Part of me never really left. Part of me is still in that rest stop, still watching the snow, still waiting, still hungry. My name is Michelle Parker, and I survived the Wendigo rest stop, but I'm not sure. I'm really truly sure if I actually escaped, or if I'm still there. The house wasn't supposed to feel strange. It was a normal 2-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood. Exactly the kind of home I'd been searching for after months of apartment living. The price was surprisingly decent, the street was peaceful, and the neighbors seemed friendly enough. Nothing about it screamed haunted or dangerous. But the first night there, something felt wrong. I had just finished unpacking basics, bed sheets, toothbrush, a box of kitchen stuff. It was late, around 1 a.m., and the whole house felt unnaturally still. Maybe it was because everything was new and unfamiliar. Maybe it was exhaustion. But even then, I kept noticing these tiny things that shouldn't have bothered me. Like how cold the hallway was, even though the heater was running. Or how the bathroom mirror took ages to clear, even after a short shower. Or how the lights buzzed faintly, like they were straining to stay on. I ignored it all. New home, new noises, no big deal. I finally crawled into bed, turned off the lamp, and tried to relax. The room was pitch dark, except for the faint glow from a streetlight filtering through the curtains. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly, letting sleep come. That's when I heard it. A soft thump, not loud enough to scare me, but enough to snap my eyes open. It came from the hallway right outside my bedroom door. I stared at the door, waiting for another sound. For a minute, nothing happened. Then, another thump. A little closer this time. I told myself it was the house settling. Old wooden floors. Temperature changes. Normal stuff. I shut my eyes again and pulled the blanket up to my shoulders, but then something changed in the air. The room grew colder, not gradually. Like someone had opened a freezer. Door right next to me. My breath fogged slightly in the dark. I turned on the lamp with a shaky hand, flooding the room with warm yellow light. The cold remained. Slowly, I got out of bed and opened the door. The hallway was empty. Silent. But the pictures I had hung earlier, 3 small frames, were crooked. All of them tilted at the exact same angle. I hadn't placed them like that. Trying to act brave, I fixed them, pressed them flat against the wall, and walked to the kitchen to get some water. The glass felt icy in my hand. The kitchen, too, had that same strange coldness. When I walked back through the hallway, the frames were crooked again, all leaning the same way. I felt the first real jolt of fear then. The kind that tightens your stomach and makes your skin prickle. I went back to my bedroom quickly, locked the door, and turned off the lamp. I didn't want to see anything else out of place. I lay there, facing the wall, trying to breathe normally. For a few minutes, everything was quiet. My heartbeat slowed. My muscles relaxed. I almost fell asleep. Then the whisper came. It was so soft I thought I imagined it at first. A breathy, drawn-out sound behind me. Still here. I froze. Every muscle in my body went stiff. My eyes opened wide. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. The whisper came again, closer this time. almost brushing my ear. "Why did you come back?" My mind raced. I wanted to scream, but my voice wouldn't work. My throat felt locked. Finally, with all the strength I had, I rolled out of the bed, grabbing my phone and bolting out of the room. The hallway lights flickered as I ran past. The frames on the wall swung wildly like someone had just hit them. I sprinted through the living room, unlocked the front door, and ran outside barefoot into the cold night. I didn't stop until I reached the street. I called a friend and begged him to pick me up. I stayed at his place until sunrise. When I returned the next morning with him by my side, everything inside the house looked normal. But the bedroom, the blanket was folded neatly, the pillows perfectly placed, and on the fogged-up window, written by a finger, were 3 words, "You left again." I moved out that same day, didn't argue with the landlord, didn't try to explain. I still don't know who or what was whispering to me in the dark, but sometimes, when I walk past a mirror or window, my breath fogs slightly. Even when the room is warm. Like something followed me, like something is still waiting. When I moved into the townhome on Ridgeview Lane, everyone told me I got lucky. The place had been on the market for only a day, and I snagged it before 6 other buyers could even schedule a tour. It was clean, modern, and newly renovated. Fresh paint, new flooring, spotless kitchen. I didn't get any creepy vibes when I first walked in. No cold spots. No strange smell. Nothing. But maybe that was the problem. It was too perfect. The first week passed normally. Quiet neighbors, peaceful street, good lighting outside. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake a weird sense that the house felt watched, like someone stood just behind my shoulder every time I walked down the stairs. I chalked it up to stress. Moving was always overwhelming. By week 2, things escalated. One night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to the faint sound of footsteps downstairs. Slow, dragging steps. At first I thought maybe someone had broken in. I grabbed a flashlight from the drawer and crept to the top of the stairs. The house was silent. Again, I listened for a full minute. Nothing. Almost felt silly. Maybe it was the ice maker or something settling. But when I turned around to go back to bed, the footsteps started again. This time, right behind me. I spun so fast I almost fell, but the hallway was empty. The flashlight beam cut across smooth white walls and framed pictures. Everything looked normal. Still, my heart thumped hard enough to hurt. I didn't sleep until sunrise. The next morning, while making coffee, something even stranger occurred. The fridge door swung open by itself. Not a gentle swing like someone had pulled it hard. I stood there staring as the cold air poured out. There was no draft. No slope in the floor. No logical explanation. I shut it and backed away. Slowly. That was the first moment I truly felt fear in the house. Later that day, I decided to check the attic. I had never looked inside it since moving in. When I pulled the cord, dust rained down. The wooden ladder creaked as I climbed. The attic was mostly empty. Just insulation and a few cardboard boxes left by the previous owners. I opened the nearest one. It was full of photographs, hundreds of them. All undeveloped Polaroids. I lifted one. It had handwriting on the back. 49 Ridgeview Lane, basement. Window, 317 AMA. My stomach dropped. That was my address. I checked another. Kitchen. Behind. Her 104 AIM, another. Stairs, watching, 4:52 a.m. I grabbed a handful more. Same style. Same notes, all documenting angles of the house. At night, with someone inside. But every photo was blank, never printed. It felt like my blood turned cold. I shoved all the boxes back and climbed down as fast as I could, shutting the attic door hard enough to shake the ceiling. The entire rest of the day, I felt eyes on me. No matter where I stood, that night, sleep didn't come easy. I left a lamp on and kept my phone in my hand. Around 3 a.m., a soft tapping sound echoed from the kitchen. Tap, tap, tap. Like fingernails against a counter. My throat tightened. I didn't want to go downstairs, but the longer I waited, the louder the tapping got. Then it changed. 3 slow, heavy knocks. On the wall, right outside my bedroom. I held my breath. My entire body froze. The knocking repeated, stronger, more demanding. I whispered, "Who's there?" There was no answer. At least not a voice. Instead, the lamp beside me flickered, buzzing like it was about to burst. The shadows moved unnaturally across the walls, and then I heard it. A whisper, not from the hallway this time, but from under the bed. "Did you check all the photos?" I jumped back so hard I hit the dresser. My heart hammered violently. Tears stung my eyes as I backed against the far wall. The whisper came again, clearer, closer. "You missed one." I forced myself to look at the edge of the bed. A single photograph slid out from underneath. This one wasn't blank. It was fully developed. It showed me sleeping in my bed, from inside the room. Behind me. In the photo, a dark shape stood in the corner. Tall, distorted, facing the camera. I screamed, grabbed my keys, and ran barefoot out the front door without looking back. I never spent another night in that house. I paid double rent to break the contract. I left the photo on the kitchen counter because I couldn't even touch it again. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found the attic. If whatever took those pictures had decided to finish what they started. And sometimes late at night, I swear I hear tapping on my apartment walls. Slow, almost patient, like something finally found where I moved. My name is James Mitchell. I'm 31 years old, and I'm an avid hunter. Been hunting since I was a kid. My father taught me. My grandfather taught him. It's something we do every winter, November through January. Out in the woods. Early mornings. Late nights. Just me, my rifle, and nature. This happened on January 12th, 2025. Was hunting in the Appalachian Mountains. Specifically in eastern Kentucky. Remote area. Lots of wildlife. Not many people. Exactly what I needed. I'd rented a small hunting cabin, about 15 miles from the nearest town. It was old but functional. Had heat, had running water, had electricity powered by a generator. For 3 weeks in the middle of nowhere. It was perfect. The first week was uneventful. Beautiful, actually. Cold, clear days. Quiet nights. I saw plenty of deer. Didn't take any shots. I wasn't really there to hunt. I was there to disappear for a while. My marriage was falling apart. Work was crushing me. I needed escape. By day 8. Things got strange. I noticed footprints. Human footprints. Around the cabin. In the snow. Fresh ones. Made sometime in the previous night. I live alone. The cabin was supposed to be isolated. The nearest neighbor was 5 miles away. So why were there footprints circling my cabin? I checked the cabin thoroughly. Nothing was missing. Nothing was disturbed. But someone had walked around the building multiple times. The prints made a complete circle, like whoever it was had been examining the place. I told myself it was a hiker, someone lost, someone passing through. It happened in remote areas. Nothing to worry about. But the next night, there were more footprints, and they were closer, right up against the windows. As if someone had been peering inside, I locked all the doors, loaded my rifle, kept it next to my bed. The footprints continued every night, always circling the cabin, always coming closer to the windows, but never attacking, never trying to get in, just watching. On night 11, I decided to follow the footprints. The prints led away from the cabin, into the woods. I followed them for about a mile, through thick forest, over rocky terrain, and they led to another cabin. But this cabin was different. Abandoned, completely abandoned. The door was hanging off its hinges. Windows were broken. The roof had a massive hole in it. Snow covered everything inside. But here's what got me. There were footprints inside this cabin too. Fresh ones, made recently. And in the center of the main room, there was a bed, unmade, like someone had been sleeping there. There was a lantern, oil-powered, sitting on a table. Next to it, a journal. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that now. But I did. The handwriting was shaky, unstable, but legible. The entry started in November. Found a cabin. There's someone living here. A man. He leaves during the day. Hunting, probably. I need to know why he's here. I need to know if he's the one. The one? The one what? I flipped through more pages. The entries became more erratic, more desperate. He's been here for 8 days. He stays inside, keeps the lights on. He doesn't know I'm watching. He doesn't know what I want, what I need. November 28th, I went to the town, found his truck, found his registration. His name is James Mitchell. He's from Columbus. Why is he here? Why has he come here? Is this a sign? Is this fate? My blood ran cold. This person, whoever wrote this, they knew who I was. They've been tracking me. December 15th, 13 days now. I've watched him through the windows. He's lonely, broken. I can see it in how he moves. He moves like a ghost, like he's not really alive. Maybe he understands. Maybe he knows what it's like to be dead inside. December 19th, I tried to talk to him today. Left a note on his door, but he didn't respond. He burned it. I watched him from the trees. He burned my note and locked the doors. December 28th. I can't take this anymore. The waiting is killing me. I need him to see me. I need him to acknowledge me. If he doesn't, if he continues to ignore me, then maybe I need to make him understand what isolation feels like. The entries stop there. The last one dated December 28th. 12 days ago, I stood in that abandoned cabin, holding someone's obsessive journal, realizing I was being watched, that I'd been watched for weeks, that someone knew my name, my history, my pain. I left immediately, drove back to my cabin, packed my things, decided to leave the next morning. But that night, The footprints changed. They weren't circling the cabin anymore. They were pressed against the door. Multiple sets, overlapping, like whoever it was had been pacing. Back and forth, frantic dot, and on my door. Written in the frost dot dot. Don't leave, please don't leave, I can't lose you too. I grabbed my rifle, grabbed my car keys, got in my vehicle and drove away. Didn't stop until I reached the highway. Didn't stop until I was back in civilization. I went to the police. Showed them the journal. Showed them photos of the footprints. Showed them the abandoned cabin. They searched for 3 days. Found nothing. No person. No evidence of anyone living in that cabin. No trace of whoever had written the journal. But the cabin was real. The journal was real. I had it. I showed it to the officers, and when the head detective looked at me, I saw it in his eyes. The recognition. The understanding. Like he'd seen this before. "Mr. Mitchell," he said carefully, "how long were you in that cabin?" 11 days. Before I found the abandoned cabin. And during those 11 days, did you ever leave? Did you ever go into town? Once, to get supplies. Did you notice anyone following you? No, but, Mr. Mitchell, that abandoned cabin you found. We checked the records. It was supposed to be demolished in 2003, but for some reason, the demolition never happened. The land changed hands. The cabin was just forgotten. What are you saying? I'm saying, we've had 7 missing persons reports in that area over the past 15 years. All of them hunters. All of them rented cabins nearby. And all of them reported being watched by someone, by something, before they disappeared. I felt my stomach drop. We think you were lucky, he said. We think whatever it was, whatever watches that area, it was interested in you. But for some reason, it let you go. I never got that journal back. The police kept it as evidence. But there was never an investigation. Never a suspect. Never answers. Sometimes. When it snows. I see footprints outside my house in Columbus, circling, watching, and I wonder if it followed me. If it's still waiting. Still hoping I'll understand what it wants, and I wonder. If I'd stayed longer. If I'd let it get close enough. Would I have understood? Would I have seen myself in whatever it was? My name is James Mitchell, and I was hunted in the Kentucky mountains by something that knew my pain. Something that recognized a broken soul. Something that thought, maybe, we were the same. And sometimes, I wonder if I should have stayed, if I should have answered when it called. My name is Robert Callahan. I'm 34 years old, and I drive a semi-truck for a living. Been doing it for 12 years. I know every highway in America. I know the routes. I know the truck stops. I know the dangers. You learn to be careful. You learn to trust your instincts. You learn that some roads are safer than others. Route 19 through the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia is not a safe road. Not because of traffic. Not because of weather. But because of what lurks along the shoulders at night. This happened on January 22, 2025, around 11 p.m. I was hauling a load of coal from Charleston to Pittsburgh. Dead of winter. Cold enough that exposed skin freezes in minutes. Snow on the ground. Sparse traffic. Just me and the occasional car every few miles. I was about 30 miles outside of Princeton when I saw her. A young woman, maybe early 20s, wearing a thin jacket. No hat, no gloves. Standing on the shoulder with her thumb out. Hitchhiking in these conditions, not every instinct told me not to stop. It was late. She was alone. The road was remote. Every safety training I'd received screamed, "Don't pick up hitchhikers," but she looked so cold, so desperate. And there was something else. Something about the way she stood. Like she wasn't quite connected to the ground. Like she might blow away if the wind got strong enough. I slowed down anyway. Rolled down my window. "Where you headed?" "North," she said. Her voice was thin, reedy, like wind through dead leaves. "Just north. Anywhere north. It's freezing out here." "Get in." She climbed into the cab. She was even thinner up close. Almost skeletal. Her skin had a grayish tint. Her eyes didn't quite focus when she looked at me. "Thanks," she whispered. "Thanks for stopping. What are you doing out here? In this cold? Alone?" "I'm trying to get away. There's something following me. Something that won't let me rest. I have to keep moving. If I stop, it catches me. I should have pulled over and kicked her out right then." That's how you recognize trouble. Someone talking about things following them. Someone who seems off. Someone who isn't quite right, but I kept driving. "Where are you from?" I asked. "Beckley. About 50 miles south. I died there. 3 days ago. January 19th car accident. Drunk driver hit me head on. I was coming home from work. I was 21 years old. Didn't get to go to college. Didn't get to travel. Didn't get to do any of the things I'd planned. I took my eyes off the road for just a second to look at her. "You're saying you're dead?" "I am. I was. I don't know anymore. I'm still here. Still conscious. Still aware. But my body is in a funeral home in Beckley. And I'm riding in your truck. Does that make sense to you?" No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to be true. And it is true. I'm dead. But I can't move on. Something is keeping me here. Something is hunting me. Every night it gets closer. Every night it almost catches me. So I hitchhike. I try to get away. But distance doesn't matter. It follows anyway. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My palms were sweating. This woman was clearly unstable. Probably a mental health crisis. I should take her to a hospital. Get her help. But something stopped me. The mirror. Looking at the road behind us. Half expecting to see something. Some kind of entity pursuing us. "Why did you get in my truck?" I asked. "Why not just disappear?" "Because being alone is worse. When I'm alone, he's stronger. When there are other people around, other witnesses, his hold weakens. He needs to be unobserved to do what he wants to do." My skin crawled. And what does he want to do? Make me feel what he felt in the last seconds of his life. Terror, pain, the knowledge that he caused someone's death. He wants me to experience that, forever. I saw the sign for the next exit. Beckley, exit 44, I should get off. Get to civilization. Get this woman to help, but she put her hand on my arm. And it was ice. Literally ice. Her skin was below freezing. "Don't," she said. "Don't get off. If you get off at Beckley, he'll know where I am. He'll be waiting. And he won't just come for me. He'll come for you too. For helping me. For interfering. I'm pulling over, I said. I'm getting you to a hospital. There is no hospital that can help me. There's no doctor for my condition. There's only forward. Keeping moving. Trying to stay ahead of him. The temperature in the cab dropped rapidly. My breath became visible. Frost formed on the inside of the windshield. I turned up the heat, but it made no difference. And then I saw it. In the mirror. On the road behind us. Something moving. Fast. Impossibly fast. A shape. Dark. Humanoid. But wrong. Moving at speeds no human could achieve. Getting closer. He's here, she whispered. He found me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I got in your truck. What do I do? How do I stop him? You can't. You can only drive. Drive as fast as you can. Drive north. Keep driving until sunrise. The sun weakens him. The light hurts him. If we can make it to daylight, he'll retreat. I pressed the accelerator. The truck surged forward. 70 miles per hour. 75, 80, the speedometer climbing. On icy roads. In the mountains. Insane speeds that could kill me. And it was still getting closer. The shape in the mirror. Growing larger. More defined. I could almost see a face. A twisted, angry face. Screaming silently. Faster, she urged. Faster, he's so angry. He's so close. I hit 85 miles per hour. The truck was shaking. I could lose control. Could crash. Could die. But I had to outrun whatever was chasing us. The shape reached the back of the truck. I felt an impact. Like something hit us. The truck swerved. I corrected. Kept driving. Another impact. The mirror on the driver's side shattered. I heard it. Glass exploding. Then the passenger window began to frost over. From the inside. Ice forming. Spreading like cancer. Blocking out everything outside. The cold became unbearable, and she was gone. The hitchhiker. Just gone. The passenger seat was empty. I was alone. Driving 85 miles per hour in the mountains. In the dark. With something pursuing me, I saw the exit sign. 1 to 77 north. I took it. Hard. The truck tilted. Nearly rolled. But I straightened it out. Kept driving. The impact stopped. The cold retreated gradually. By the time I reached the intersection with I-77, the cab was warming up again. The frost was melting. I drove north. Toward Pittsburgh. Toward daylight. Toward safety. I didn't see her again. Didn't see the shape again. By the time sunrise came, I was 200 miles north of Beckley. And everything seemed normal, rational, like nothing had happened. But the passenger seat was still wet. And there was a cold spot on my arm where she'd grabbed me. A spot that hasn't warmed up in 3 days. And every night, at 11 p.m., I hear it. The sound of something fast moving on the road behind me. The sound of pursuit. The sound of something that won't let go. I don't drive Route 19 anymore. I take different routes. I've told other drivers. Warned them. Most think I'm crazy, but some know what I'm talking about. Some have picked up hitchhikers who weren't quite real. Who faded before reaching their destination. who left behind cold spots and impossible stories. My name is Robert Callahan. I'm a truck driver, and I met something on Route 19 that shouldn't exist. Something angry, something trapped, something that's still hunting, still pursuing. And I know that somewhere on that road, the hitchhiker is still there, still trying to get away, still hoping that someone kind enough to stop will help her escape. But I won't stop again, because the thing that follows her is patient, and it's always waiting. The night I drove into the Appalachian backcountry, I wasn't planning on staying longer than a few hours. I just needed a shortcut to reach North Carolina before morning, and Google Maps insisted that the narrow, winding mountain road was the fastest route. I should have known better when every gas station clerk before the ridge told me, "Don't stay in those hills after dark." They didn't explain why, they just stared at me like I was already doomed. The deeper I drove into the mountains, the thicker the fog became. It wasn't normal fog either. It moved like it had weight, crawling along the pavement like something alive. My high beams couldn't cut through it. The forest pressed tight on both sides, claws of bare branches scraping my windows every time the wind howled. Around 11:30 p.m., I saw a woman standing at the edge of the road. She wasn't waving. She wasn't asking for help. She was just staring at my truck, her long hair stuck to her face from the mist. Her clothes looked old, like 1940s old, and her skin was pale as the moonlight. I slowed down just enough to get a good look at her, and her eyes followed me without her head moving. They slid in the sockets like they were made of liquid. I sped up immediately. A few miles later, the fog thickened into a wall. The truck's headlights flickered, and the temperature inside dropped so sharply that my breath fogged the windshield. Then the radio, completely dead until that moment, crackled to life. A whisper slid through the static. "You shouldn't have looked at her." The voice wasn't human. It rattled like someone speaking through a throat that wasn't meant for words. I yanked the radio dial, but it wouldn't turn off. The whisper repeated, louder this time, "She saw you." The road curved sharply, and standing right in the middle of it was the same woman. Only now she was closer. Much closer. Her head was tilted backward like her neck had been snapped. Her jaw hung loose, and her mouth stretched unnaturally wide. Her arms lifted slowly, as if someone invisible was pulling them up with strings. I slammed the brakes. My truck skidded, but the woman didn't move. Instead, she slid toward me, her feet never touching the ground. Her long fingers tapped the hood, nails dragging across the metal until sparks flew. Then she pressed her face against the windshield. Her mouth opened wider. The sound she made wasn't a scream. It was a mountain wind tearing through 1,000 dead trees. A hollow wail that vibrated inside my chest. I threw the truck in reverse. She scraped along the hood as I backed away, her face dragging across the glass, leaving long streaks of black tar-like trails. When she fell off the edge of the road, the fog swallowed her like she'd never existed. I didn't stop driving until I reached cell service again. When I checked my truck in daylight, every streak on the windshield was still there, hard, sticky, impossible to clean. When the mechanic inspected it, he asked if I'd driven through a burn site. I said no. He looked at me with confusion and whispered, "Then why does it smell like something dead melted onto your glass?" I never drove through the Appalachians again. 3 years ago, my cousin Mason bought an old cabin hidden deep in the Appalachian foothills. It belonged to a man who vanished sometime in the 80s, leaving behind a house full of dust, newspapers, and locked drawers fallen. The porch boards bent under my feet like they were breathing. Inside, the cabin smelled like wet earth and rusted metal. Mason had set up lanterns around the living room. "Power's still dead," he muttered, handing me a flashlight. "But I think someone tried to fix it recently." That was the first red flag. The toolbox lying near the fuse box wasn't Mason's. The tools were old, rusted but neatly arranged. And next to them sat a notebook filled with dates and scribbled notes. "He comes at 1:42 a.m. Don't answer the door. Never talk to him." Mason brushed it off. Probably just the old owner losing his mind. But the handwriting ended abruptly mid-sentence, as if the writer dropped the pen and never returned it. Around midnight, the wind picked up. The trees slammed against the cabin like they were trying to break in. Mason and I were packing tools when we heard slow, heavy footsteps on the porch. They weren't animal footsteps. Someone was walking back and forth, dragging something behind them. Mason grabbed a lantern. "Probably a hunter," he whispered. "But hunters don't drag chains, and they don't circle cabins in the dead of night." The footsteps stopped directly outside the living room window. The lantern flickered. My flashlight died instantly. Then we heard a voice. Not loud, not soft, just wrong. "Is he home tonight?" The voice scraped like metal on stone, echoing through the wood. Mason froze. The notebook's warning repeated in my ears. "Never talk to him." The voice asked again, this time deeper. "Is he home?" Something long and pale pressed against the window. A hand not human slid upward, leaving streaks of grime. The fingers were too thin, too long, each joint bending twice. The door handle turned slowly. We backed away as the cabin shook. The voice whispered through every crack in the wood. "Let me in." He promised me. Mason grabbed his keys and we bolted out the back door, sprinting through the trees. The footsteps followed us, not matching our speed, just steady, patient, closing an inch by inch. When we reached my truck, we looked back only once. Something tall stood on the porch roof, crouched like a starving animal, its head tilting slowly toward us. Its arms dangled down to its knees. The lantern inside the cabin flickered once, then blew out. The cabin burned a week later, but the sheriff said there were no footprints, no signs of forced entry, and no remains. Last fall, I took a solo hiking trip near the Tennessee-Virginia line. The trail was peaceful during the day streams, running clear, crisp air, leaves crunching under every step. But as evening crept deeper into the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavy, colder, like someone was standing close behind me. Around 7 p.m., I reached an old fire tower I planned to camp near. It hadn't been used since the 1950s, but the metal frame still stood tall, creaking softly in the wind. I pitched my tent a few yards away. As night settled, thunder rumbled far off beyond the ridge. Lightning flickered behind the clouds. I ate dinner, zipped into my sleeping bag, and tried to rest. At 1 a.m., I woke up to tapping. Not on my tent, on the fire tower's metal frame. Tap, tap, tap. Slow and deliberate. I unzipped my tent just enough to peek outside. The moonlight was dim, but I could still see the tower clearly. Someone was standing on the very top platform. Tall, too tall, shoulders thin and sharp, head bent unnaturally far to the side. They weren't moving, just watching the forest. I stayed, perfectly still. Then the figure dropped straight down the tower as if gravity had pulled it with impossible force. It hit the ground with a soft thud and began crawling toward my tent. I zipped it shut quietly, backing away until my hands pressed against the far side. The crawling stopped just outside. I didn't breathe. A shadow passed against the tent wall, long limbs bending in unnatural angles. It leaned in close, and I heard a rasping inhale, like it was smelling me through the fabric. Then softly, almost childlike, it whispered, "Are you awake?" Every instinct screamed at me not to respond. The creature's shadow shifted. It pressed its face against the tent, stretching the fabric as it sniffed along the seams. My pulse hammered so loudly I thought I could hear it. Then lightning flashed. A bright white burst lit up the entire clearing, and for one perfect second, I saw its silhouette through the fabric. The head was wrong, flattened. The jaw hung loose like broken hinges. The legs were backward, like a deer's, only twisted further inward. And the arms dragged on the ground. Another thunderclap roared. The creature shrieked a high, bone-piercing wail and crawled away so fast it blurred into the tree line. I grabbed my pack, left my tent behind, and sprinted toward my car miles away. I didn't stop until I reached the trailhead at sunrise. When rangers checked the site later, my tent was torn apart, not sliced, not clawed, chewed. And on one of the fire tower's metal steps, they found a handprint burned into the rusted surface, with fingers far too long to be human. I was driving through a remote stretch of the Appalachian backroads, the kind of place where your GPS loses signal and every tree looks like it's hiding something. I'd taken a wrong turn, leaving a small diner near the Kentucky border. The waitress warned me not to follow the ridge after dark, but she didn't explain why. I assumed it was the usual local superstition. The sky was already darkening when I reached a fork in the road. The right path seemed familiar, but the left had a wooden sign that looked hand-carved, pointing upward with the word "Passage" burned into it. My headlights caught fresh footprints near the sign, bare footprints. In freezing weather, I should have ignored them, but the moment I looked at them, the forest went quiet. No wind, no insects, nothing. Curiosity won. I took the left path. The road narrowed until branches scraped both sides of my truck, making it feel like the trees were closing in. Fog drifted across the hood in thick sheets. My radio, which had been nothing but static for miles, suddenly crackled with a faint voice. A man's voice. "You're late." I turned the volume down, but the voice didn't stop. It grew clearer, like someone was speaking right next to me. "Follow my steps." The radio cut off, and on the road ahead, illuminated by my headlights, were bare footprints again. But this time they were moving. One footprint at a time, pressed into the dirt, as if an invisible person was walking. And they were walking away from me. Against every instinct, I followed them uphill. The temperature dropped so fast my breath fogged the windshield. My ears popped like the air pressure had changed. Then I saw a cabin perched over the ridge, lit from inside by an orange glow. Smoke rose from its chimney, even though no one lived up here, not for decades. Locals said the last resident vanished after ranting about voices in the fog. I parked and stepped out. The woods were dead silent. The door of the cabin creaked open on its own. Inside, everything looked untouched: old furniture, a dusty fireplace, a rocking chair gently swaying although there was no breeze. A journal lay open on the table. The last page read, "He comes when the mountain chooses." Don't open the door after the footsteps stop. Before I could process it, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, heavy, circling the cabin. I held my breath and backed away, praying whoever or whatever it was would leave. The footsteps stopped directly outside the door. Then 3 soft knocks. A voice whispered through the wood. "I found you." The door handle started turning. I grabbed the nearest object, a metal lantern, and braced myself. But the door didn't open. Instead, something long slid across the window behind me. A pale hand with fingers so thin, they looked like bones wrapped in wet paper. It tapped the glass exactly 3 times. As if mocking the knocks from the door, my heartbeat pounded so loudly, I thought the thing could hear it. The cabin lights flickered. The voice whispered again. This time right against the window. "You followed the wrong footprints." A huge crack split the glass. That was enough. I bolted through the back door, sprinting through trees and stumbling over roots until I reached my truck. When I looked back, something tall, hunched, and skin-white stood in the cabin doorway, watching me. Its head tilted at an impossible angle. I tore down the mountain without ever looking back again. For days afterward, I heard knocking on my front door every night at exactly the same time. 3 knocks, and always silence after. 2 years ago, I volunteered with a search and rescue team near the Blue Ridge Mountains. People go missing out there more often than anyone admits. Sometimes hikers, sometimes locals, sometimes entire campsites vanish without a trace. One night, we got a call about a missing teenager named Riley. His tent was found shredded near a creek. No tracks, no animal prints, just drag marks leading uphill. We headed out at dusk. The deeper we went, the more wrong everything felt. The trees were too still. The wind sounded like it was whispering words. And every few minutes, one of us swore they heard someone crying. Around midnight, we found the first sign: Riley's flashlight, still warm like it had been dropped minutes ago. But we were already a full day behind. We followed the drag marks to an old, abandoned mine shaft. The wooden beams above it were carved with symbol circles, triangles, and something resembling an eye with a slash through it. Riley's voice echoed faintly from inside. "Help. Please help." We tied ropes and descended. The air grew colder with every step. My breath floated in front of me, even though it was summer. About 50 feet down, we found a tunnel branching left. Something scratched the walls, deep, long marks as if made by claws. Riley cried out again, only something was wrong. His voice echoed too much, bouncing oddly, like it wasn't coming from a human throat. We turned a corner and froze. Something was standing at the far end of the tunnel. Tall, thin, its spine bent outward like it had grown the wrong way. And in its hand it held Riley's backpack. But the thing wasn't facing us. It was facing the wall. Then it slowly turned its head. But not its body. Just the head. All the way around until it looked directly at us, upside down, like its neck was made of rope. Its eyes were empty pits, completely hollow. And then it mimicked Riley's voice perfectly. "Help. Please." The other rescuers stumbled back, but I was rooted in place. The creature dropped the backpack and began walking toward us on all fours, each limb bending backwards in a sickening, unnatural angle. Our headlamps flickered. The tunnel shook. Rocks fell from the ceiling. We ran. As we climbed back up the mine shaft, the creature shrieked, a sound like metal screaming against metal. Something grabbed my boot on the way up, icy cold fingers digging into my ankle. I kicked wildly until it let go and scrambled out. Just as the entrance caved in behind us. We never found Riley, but 2 days later, the sheriff's office received a 911 call. The voice on the line was Riley's, except the call traced back to the collapsed mine, where nothing alive could have survived. When I was 13, My family lived near the West Virginia side of the Appalachian Range. Our backyard backed straight into dense forest. No fences, no trails, just endless trees. My dad always warned us not to go past the old stone wall behind the house. He said the woods didn't belong to us. One stormy night, lightning cracked open the sky and the power went out. My parents were out of town, so it was just me and my older brother, Caleb. Around midnight, we heard knocking at the back door. Slow, gentle knocks. We froze. Nobody ever came to our back door. There wasn't a path leading to it. Caleb whispered. Don't answer it. The knocking continued. Louder this time. When we didn't respond, a voice called from outside. It's cold. Can I come in? It didn't sound threatening. It sounded sad, lonely, but the tone was just slightly off. Like someone trying too hard to sound human. Lightning flashed again, and the silhouette of a person appeared behind the frosted glass. Tall, thin, perfectly still. Then the voice said something that made my stomach drop. I've come home. We had never heard that voice in our lives. Caleb grabbed my arm and pulled me into our parents' room. We hid behind the bed, listening as the knocking shifted to the windows. One by one. Tap, tap, tap. The voice floated around the house. Why won't you let me in? I'm cold. I used to live here. Let me in. Then something scraped across the roof's slow dragging steps. Caleb whispered, shaking. It's not a person. The roof creaked above us. Then we heard something drop from the gutters and land in the backyard. Silence. Thinking it was gone. We dared to peek through the blinds. What we saw still haunts me. A shape stood by the stone wall. Limbs too long. Head tilted like it was studying us. And slowly, very slowly, it raised its hand and waved. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, we saw its true face. It wasn't human. It had no mouth, no nose, just a stretched blank surface with two holes where eyes should have been. And then it whispered from across the yard, louder and clearer than ever. I remember you. We slammed the blinds shut. By morning, it was gone. But deep footprints led from the forest to our house. And back over the stone wall. My dad never let us talk about it again. But every stormy night after that, we heard tapping at our windows. Always 3 taps, and always followed by the same whispered words. Let me in. I was driving through northern Idaho on a late November night. The kind of cold that makes your windshield crack if you blast the heater too fast. The highway was practically empty, except for the occasional semi far in the distance. And the sky was so dark it felt like the world had shrunk around my truck. I'd been on the road since Montana, heading to see my sister after almost a year. Long drive, but I figured an overnight push would save time. Around 1:30 a.m., snow began falling heavier, blurring the white lines until it felt like I was drifting across nowhere. I slowed down, leaning forward to see through the glare. That's when I noticed something odd. Hazard lights blinking up ahead on the shoulder. Black SUV. Driver door open. Interior lights glowing, but no one inside. I pulled over, thinking someone might have gone out to check the engine or slipped on the ice. When I stepped out, the wind cut through my jacket like I wasn't even wearing one. The ground looked untouched, no tracks, no sign anyone had walked away. I called out, "You all right? Anyone here?" Nothing. The SUV's engine was still warm. Coffee cup in the console. Phone on the seat with the flashlight still on. Whoever left did it fast. I scanned the area. The forest line was only a few yards away, tall pines forming a wall of darkness. Something about the way the trees stood there, too still, too silent, made the air feel heavier. I shined my flashlight deeper into the tree line. A shape moved. At first, I thought it was just snow falling from a branch. But then I saw it clearly, a person stepping back behind a tree. Not hiding well, just watching. I raised my voice, asking if they needed help. The shape leaned slightly, like it was considering me. Then it stepped forward. Not walking, sliding, like its feet didn't touch the ground. For one split second, my light caught its face. Or what should have been a face. It looked stretched, like someone had pressed it flat and tried to draw human features over it with shaking hands. My instincts screamed at me. I backed toward my truck, never taking my eyes off it. The thing tilted its head, almost curious, and then began gliding closer. Slow. Steady. As if it had all the time in the world. I jumped into my truck, locked the doors, and floored it. Snow kicked up behind me as I swerved back onto the highway. The creature didn't chase, didn't need to. It just watched in that same unnatural stillness. The SUV disappeared in my rearview mirror. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed inside the console with a notification. I hadn't touched it since stopping. New contact added. UNK below it. A message. I wasn't done with you. I threw the phone into the back seat and didn't stop driving until sunrise. When I checked it later, the contact wasn't there, but the message was. People talk about the Sonoran Desert like it's lifeless, but anyone who's driven the I-19 at night knows that isn't true. Things live out there, just not things you want to meet. I was hauling medical supplies southbound, around midnight, when my GPS rerouted unexpectedly. Probably bad signal. It led me off the main highway onto a narrow 2-lane road with no lights and no shoulder. Just sand and scrub stretching endlessly. I was alone for almost an hour before I saw the first sign of life, a roadside rest area. Old, beaten, half-collapsed bathroom building and a couple of picnic tables. Looked abandoned, but one of the lights above the restroom flickered weakly, even though the power grid here barely worked. I pulled in because I'd been driving too long and needed a break. As soon as I stepped out, the desert air hit me dry, sharp, colder than it should have been. I stretched, walked around a bit, and then noticed something odd. There were footprints all around the rest, stop. Lots of them. But only one set was fresh, leading into the restroom. Not out. I called out. Anyone in there? My voice echoed strangely, as if the building had more space inside than it should. I pushed the door open. The light flickered. Inside. The walls were covered in writing, hundreds of sentences scratched into the concrete with what looked like a key or a rock. Most said the same thing. Don't follow the mirage. In the corner, a backpack sat upright, full, recently used. A half-eaten energy bar sat beside it, but no person. I stepped deeper in, the air growing colder. My breath fogged. Then the room behind me shifted. Not a sound, just a shift. Like the walls widened, a low whisper drifted from the last stall. Not threatening, not angry, just close. You saw me. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The stall door slid open slowly, and a figure stepped out, but its feet weren't touching the ground. Its shadow didn't match its shape. The face stayed, hidden in darkness, even though the flickering light should have illuminated it. I ran out, sprinting to my truck. Before I slammed the door, I looked back once. The thing stood outside the restroom, still as stone. Its head bent at an unnatural angle, like it was studying me. Then it raised a hand slow, deliberate, and pointed east, toward the desert, toward nothing. Floored it. My GPS recalculated instantly without signal sending me back to the highway. When I later researched the rest stop, it didn't exist on any map, but the message scratched on the wall stayed in my mind. Don't follow the mirage. I was driving through rural Oregon to visit my mom after her surgery. It was raining hard, the kind that drowns out your wipers and makes the road shine like black glass. My phone lost signal hours ago. The forest on both sides looked soaked and dense. Branches weighed down with water. Around 11 p.m., I spotted someone walking on the shoulder. A woman, barefoot, wearing a gray dress that clung to her like she'd been standing in the rain for hours. Her head was down, soaked hair covering her face. I slowed, rolled down my window slightly, and asked if she needed help. She didn't answer, didn't move, didn't even breathe visibly, just stood there. Rain pouring off her. I parked a few yards ahead and stepped out, trying not to spook her. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need a ride?" She lifted her head, just a little, not all the way, just enough. Her eyes weren't reflecting my headlights. They were absorbing them pitch black. Like holes. I froze. She smiled, but not the kind of smile a human makes. Too wide, too stretched, too steady. Then she whispered, "You finally stopped." I staggered back toward my truck. She began walking toward me, not running, not rushing, just walking with deliberate steps, calm, like she had all the time in the world. I jumped in, locked the door, and hit the gas. But the moment I checked my mirror, she wasn't on the road. She was sitting in my back seat, perfectly still, just sitting there. Her wet hair dripping onto the upholstery. I swerved violently, nearly crashing into a ditch. When I turned around again, she was gone. The seat was dry, nothing disturbed. When I finally reached my mother's home, my phone regained signal. I put it on the charger and let it boot up. There was a new photo in my gallery, taken from the back seat, of me driving. And in the corner, a wet strand of hair. I was driving alone on Route 87, a stretch of highway people in northern Georgia avoid after sunset. Winter had just begun, and the road was so empty it felt like the whole world had gone silent. My heater barely worked, my phone had dipped into low signal, and all I could see ahead was a long black line, swallowed by forest. It was near midnight when I noticed something strange. Every mile marker I passed looked older than the last. The numbers were right, but the poles were rusted, the paint fading, like they'd been sitting there untouched for 50 years. At first, I thought I was imagining things. Long drives can mess with your head. But then I saw a wooden sign on the side of the road that said, "Welcome to Red Hollow," painted in peeling letters. Except there is no Red Hollow anywhere on Route 87. I Googled it before the trip. It doesn't exist. As I kept driving, fog rolled across the pavement, thick enough to make my headlights look dim. The temperature inside my truck began dropping fast, and the radio, already fuzzy, started picking up an old broadcast. A man's voice reading emergency instructions for a town that shouldn't exist. Residents of Red Hollow, remain indoors. Do not approach figures on the highway. Repeat, do not approach. My hands tightened around the wheel. I slowed down, scanning the road for anything, an animal, a person, a fallen branch. Then I saw someone standing at the edge of the fog. Not moving, just facing me. Their clothes looked wrong for the present day. like something from the 1940s. A long coat, dark gloves, and a wide-brim hat that hid their face. I swerved slightly to avoid getting too close. But as I passed, they turned their heads sharply toward me, and the air inside my truck suddenly felt suffocating, like something unseen was leaning over my shoulder. My dashboard lights flickered. The radio cut out. The fog thickened until I couldn't see behind me, even in the mirror. A few miles later, I saw another sign. Then another figure. Then another dot. By the time I reached mile marker 214, I realized something terrifying. They weren't people. Or at least not anymore. They all stood perfectly still in identical poses, their faces turned toward me. No movement. No blinking. No breath clouding in the cold. Just silent watchers lining the highway like a funeral procession. My heart pounded so hard, I could hear it echo in my ears. I pushed the accelerator, desperate to get out of that stretch. But the further I drove, the older the signs became, the darker the fog grew, and the more those figures appeared. Standing closer and closer to the road dot, when I finally saw a bright flashing light ahead, I nearly cried with relief. It was a gas station, an old one, but real. I pulled in, shaking, and the moment I stepped out, everything felt normal again. The fog was gone. My radio worked. The air warmed. The clerk looked at me confused when I asked about Red Hollow. He said quietly, "If you saw signs for that place, you're lucky you made it here at all." I didn't ask more. I didn't want to know, and I've never driven that highway at night again. 3 winters ago, I worked night shifts as a delivery driver across rural Tennessee. The money was good, but the hours left me alone on the loneliest backroads imaginable. One night, while carrying a load toward a town called Pine Ledge, my GPS rerouted me onto a side road I had never taken, Old Briar Pass. From the moment I turned onto it, something felt wrong. The pavement was cracked, the trees grew unnaturally close, and the road was so narrow my headlights barely fit between the branches. But my GPS insisted it was a faster route, and I was already late. A few minutes in, my truck's lights caught an abandoned sedan on the shoulder. All the doors were open. The interior light was still faintly glowing. I slowed down but didn't stop. Every instinct told me not to. The tracks leading away from it looked like someone had run off into the woods. Barefoot. The further I drove, the more unnerving it became. The forest noise, the crickets, the wind, even the sound of my own engine felt muffled, as if the air itself was absorbing everything. My phone lost service completely, and the map froze. Then I saw the second abandoned vehicle, and the third, all within half a mile. Different makes, different years, all with open doors like their drivers had climbed out in a hurry and disappeared into the trees. The strangest part was the conditions. No broken glass, no dents, not even footprints. Just empty cars left behind as if their owners had simply evaporated. My chest tightened with dread, but turning around felt worse than moving forward. Then my headlights flashed across something on the road, something white. I slowed just enough to see it clearly, a long stripe of cloth. It looked like part of a hospital gown. I drove over it before I could stop. Right after that, the forest erupted with movement, branches shaking violently on both sides of the road. Leaves tearing loose, shadows darting between the trees. I gripped the wheel, trying not to panic, but the sound grew louder and louder, like dozens of people running through the woods, keeping pace with my truck. When I finally reached the end of the pass, The forest abruptly thinned out. The noise vanished, and my GPS unfroze on its own. Pine Ledge was 8 miles ahead on a well-lit open road. Everything looked normal again, at the gas station. The old man at the counter looked at me strangely when he saw the dirt and leaves stuck to the side of my truck. "You came down Briar Pass," he said quietly. I nodded. He sighed and shook his head. "People don't drive that road anymore. Not after what happened at the old psychiatric retreat. They shut it down in the 90s and moved the patients, but they say some never left those woods. Anyone who takes that road hears them trying to follow." I didn't ask for details. I didn't sleep well that night either.